5, so it means the no carbs after lunch works or during lunch works.
Yeah, it's evening time, so I think we've killed those carbs. Well, thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us for this last session. And as the moderator was saying, this is by far one of the most interesting sessions we're going to have with Khalifa over here to discuss, a very interesting space, a revolution, so to say, that's happening in the telecom space. So before I start on the subject, let me just introduce to you Mr. Khalifa Al-Shamsi, who's the CEO of E&, which is one of the main verticals of E&, as you all would remember as Etisalat, which was rebranded a year and a half ago from a telecoms player to now a digital and technology firm, which has expanded its portfolio into various segments. And Khalifa is actually in charge of a lot of those new businesses that E& is expanding, whether it's the business pillar, which looks at rolling out digital services across various segments, entertainment, payment, fintech, you name it. So telecoms is not just about making a phone call or using the internet, but it's now, these companies are also now offering services, apps, technologies that help people order food, pay for it, entertainment, generating content, and a whole host of other things. So there's so much to talk about, Khalifa, with you. And if we begin with, if we look at the traditional telecom space for the last 3 or 4 decades, it's been focusing on connecting people through mobile phones or through internet. But now, you're at a stage, when I say you, the company and the industry is at a stage where it's an intersection between telecom and financial services and also digital, which is such a broad canvas. So lay us out, to begin with, where do you see the 2 or 3 big opportunities for telecom players in this big wide field of telecom, of digital and fintech?
So a couple of things about the telecom sector itself, since, as you said, I've been witnessing that through the recent years. One, the golden days of telecom operators in the 90s and early 2000 are gone. The double-digit growth that used to come purely from connectivity base is no longer there. So the main platform is under challenge, and you've seen it a lot of so many different operators, especially in mature markets. But also what has happened, that also the maturity of telecom operators evolved. And in the recent years, you've seen a lot of telecom operator has awakened to a lot of great assets that they have, that they were only using at the time to only sell minutes and megabytes. And that's where that light bulb, if you say, that start thinking about, okay, how do we leverage our assets, our capabilities, and our insights in this market to grow beyond the telecom services. And certainly, as you started with the E& group, and that's where the and is all about. And is about all these vertical digital industries around us that we're interacting with, that we serve as provider of connectivity, that we've seen a lot of value add that we can do. So we ask ourselves, do we have the right to play in these main areas? Do we have the right also an ability to contribute into these other industry by accelerating growth in the industry as a whole? And if we have our own bets in these spaces, do we have the right to win? So among the various industry that we looked at, and in the EN group also, with the COVID hitting, we always been pushing for a lot of digital type of services across our footprints, whether it is from our own services or adjacent type of services. COVID has also made a lot of industries awaken and accelerate their own digital journey. And fintech was, for us, is one of the areas that we really believe utilizing our asset, and I will go over the type of assets that we have that gives us this right to play and win. But also, it's one of the areas that get accelerated also with the COVID by virtue of customers open to try to change the methodology. We heard about the discussion of cash, non-cash in the last panel. So now also the openness of clients to try. So fintech for us is one of the main areas that we will put a bet on, because we believe there is a huge area to growth, and also it's matching our capability in this area. We focus also in the bigger digital place and the bigger consumer area in other verticals that we're putting a bet on in the entertainment industry. It's an industry that you've been familiar with, that the E& Group, previously Salat, has had its own company in the entertainment called eVision for the last 24 years. But we wanted to grow a lot faster when it comes to streaming type of services across, the whole Middle East. And for that option, we opted to acquire a majority stake of Stars Play, and that's an area that we're also putting a bet on in terms of accelerating the growth. So these two main is the two main on the consumer domain we're putting the focus on, but then also in the enterprise domain, E&, Group established another vertical called E& Enterprise, and we're doubling down on areas like Internet of Things, cyber security, and a lot of managed services toward the cloud to also accelerate the digital transformation of our partner. And it goes without saying also, since we are in the second or third week now of our announcement of Careem majority acquisition, this is an area that complement all the different type of consumer type of services. And it's a great complement of the Careem capabilities with the E&, capabilities and asset that we have when it comes to coming to a space of beyond a single type of service, multi-type of services that consumer these days is tired from exploring, and being able to have a super app that serves the whole region built in the back of superb capabilities of Careem, great capabilities and assets of the E&, Group. That's an area, the recent addition to the family.
The Careem acquisition is quite interesting, as you were saying, which is already an established player in that space, and how E&, will be now using the synergy to drive the business forward. But I want to pick up, there are various things you mentioned, and quite a few are interesting, and I want to pick some of them up and discuss with you. How do you see these spaces evolving? One is the banking space, or the payment space, so to say. According to the World Bank, there are about 2 billion people in the world that don't have a bank account. But out of those 2 billion people, 1.6 billion people have mobile phones. Is there an opportunity there for telecom players to look at bringing these people into not the traditional banking system, but at least in an informal system where they're able to operate accounts on their phone, make payments, transfer money? Is there an opportunity there?
Why not do the same services that you're saying for the banking? I believe that all segments of the society, and this is about financial inclusion. So we believe that all our customer base, when it comes, and all the population, especially if we're living in a market here in the UAE where financial inclusion is something is being pushed for, why can't you invest if you're a blue-collar worker? Why can't you have lending type of solution? Why can't you have some sort of a credit based on your consumption? So the belief is absolutely, we have launched our digital wallet in July, e-Money, and certainly we are not exempting anybody in the UAE from the service, whether you are coming from the Etisalat network or the competitor network. All users will be able to use it, and there is no limits on the solutions. As we are evolving with additional type of service beyond the qualifier for any digital wallet, which is payments, local or international or different type of payments methodology, but lending type of solution, whether it's in a microfinance or beyond, whether it's buy now, pay laters, whether it's investment, whether you want to invest in gold, you want to invest in stock and others. It's our focus in order to expand these type of services and make it available to the complete customer segments. We believe in segmentation of our customer, and this is an area where telcos are very strong in segmenting the market to the segment of one, being able to customize solution based on the interest of the user. And we are very close to our customer base, listening to their needs, demands, and we don't do it alone. As was mentioned earlier in the day, the whole innovation will come from an ecosystem of partners that we have. We bring in strength and asset and capabilities, but we rely also on the other player in the market, whether established players like bigger financial institutions or even small startups and entrepreneur that bring innovation, whether we partner in a go-to-market commercial partnership, or we acquire the company, or we invest in a company to help them grow. So I think the innovation and domain to deliver beyond what you said is bigger what when we see today.
Talking about the mature markets which we were touching upon earlier, that we've already have examples in Europe, North America, where mobile telecom players, the telcos, have been able to penetrate into various segments. And then you have a lot of countries, emerging markets in Asia, for example, where telecom players used these, for example, banking as one space to actually penetrate and expand their presence. So you have two examples there. Where do you see the UAE and the Middle East, and what kind of opportunity it offers? Because if you look at this region, specifically the Gulf region, the mobile penetration is quite high, the digital penetration is quite high. So does this create more opportunities to enter these different spaces within digital services, or does it make it more challenging because you're competing with a lot of established players probably?
UAE is a wonderful market because by virtue of the UAE is also not a one. Even when you hear others say Middle East is not the same. Heck, even the UAE is not the same. The kind of segment that you have in the markets is so diverse that you can have a different type of solution for the different segment. But also look at the footprint that we cover. Apart from the UAE, we already exist in the two biggest markets of the GCC, UAE and Saudi Arabia. We sit in the biggest populations also of the region between Pakistan, Egypt, and Morocco. So these diverse markets allow us also to have core solution capabilities and partnership that will be able to push forward differently and a different stage for the various market. So it's definitely creating different opportunity. When it comes to, for example, you mentioned earlier remittance. Today, between UAE number 2 globally and Saudi Arabia number 3 in terms of outflow of remittance, this is a great opportunity. Pakistan and Egypt, these countries are in the ranking of number 4 or number 5 in the inflow of remittance. This gives great opportunity to utilize that mix, and it's a mix also of the populations that we have in this market. So also when you're saying the maturity of the banking systems here, it's true, but we heard in the last sessions about the crypto. We can leverage as the telco, the brand, the trust that customer have, even to be able to do crypto trading. While some of you would have raised your hand from the last session question about, trading in crypto, I bet a lot of you will be hesitant also because you don't want to deal with a global player, or you don't trust smaller starting player. Maybe if you are a tech savvy, you might do it, but we're talking about solution to the masses. And telcos are best to deal with the mass. We'll be able to communicate with the full customer base and segment them according to the solution. The trust that we will provide, whether we develop our own or we buy a company or we work with another company, being able to bring solution and the trust factor will be key when it comes to that.
And how, Khalifa, what about the affordability factor? Because here you have telcos which have an existing infrastructure, they have a established customer base. Does that help in bringing down the cost when it comes to entering these new spaces and segments and also making money?
Yeah, absolutely. So, from the interaction with a lot of startup in the region, whether in the fintech place or non-fintech places, we've seen the customer acquisition cost is extremely high, especially in the GCC markets. And if you do acquisition directly at the startup, anywhere between $50, $50 plus, that's a reasonable cost that a fintech already budget for it when it comes for acquiring customer. In the telco space, if you have a telco backing, whether again in the term of partnership or being part of the mother company, it's, I will not say even a fraction of that. It's a $1 to $2 customer acquisition cost because you'll be leveraging on an existing base. So this is the biggest assets telco can add into the communities of startup in general and fintech in particular when it comes to the ease of go-to-market, the customer numbers that is there, and the insights that you have to best, be able to target customers also of different means.
We've got 5 minutes, and I want to pick up on, it's not just about fintech, which we just spoke about, whether it's payments and reaching out to the unbanked, but you're also entering other segments like entertainment, gaming. Among all these segments that you're entering, where do you see a huge opportunity? Which are the segments you're more excited about, where you see, you see yourself just scratching the surface, and this could be just the beginning for telcos?
So fintech by itself is a world of activities, and we're certainly diving into all the details, and we welcome the partnership and opportunity with a lot of you, or new opportunities with a lot of the players in the markets. As I mentioned earlier, entertainment is very big, whether it's in this sort of subscription-based entertainment. Our Stars Play company is one of the biggest three that's servicing the region across 22 markets, and we're accelerating investment to bring best-in-class content and customization also throughout the region. But consumptions of the users also varies between subscription-based or the appetite for having advertisement-funded type of entertainment is also. We've seen it emerge in different parts of the world, definitely in Europe and the US, but it's in this region, it's still not started, you can say. That's an area also will be accelerating a push in our investment in the ad-funded type of solution for the entertainment to allow also for this type of solution to reach bigger segment of the market beyond the one that can afford paying a certain type of payment. But also we're looking to enrich also the different type of content from the typical TV or video or audio and music and others beyond it to be able to give a complementing entertainment hub through our base. Other areas that we are also talking to partners and entrepreneurs and startups because we believe also in contributing to changing societies, to changing also value for the end user. It's in the health tech space. It's a lot more complicated when it comes to regulation comparing to telco or even to fintech, but the gap that's there in that space is massive. And we believe also by the various assets and capability that we have, we'll be able to play harder on that space and collaborate with a lot of players to start seeing also unicorns coming out of the region in the health tech place. And it's definitely that's a very strong vertical for us.
We've got just under 3 minutes left, so let me get some concluding remarks from you. Going ahead, if you had to take the crystal ball and look at the telco space, especially in this region, and interestingly, your company, as you said, you just don't cater to the Gulf. You have a very wide market, whether it's Pakistan, Egypt, or Morocco. If you had to pick a crystal ball, how do you see this space, the telco space, transforming in the next 4 or 5 years? What kind of companies are we looking at, and the customers they'll be catering to?
So when the telco growth was double digits, almost all telcos behave the same. Now when the growth of telco is challenging, you will see different type of companies. You'll see companies focus on their pure core telcos and trying to do the best out of it, but it will be stagnated growth when it comes to that and continuation of that. And you'll see other companies, and where we believe we are in the other space, is putting more efforts, energy, investment into building services beyond the telecom area to be able to leverage growth in the long term, and also bring in also venture companies beyond the telcos, adding value to these communities that they interact with. So different type of telcos, and hopefully investor will see different value for the growth areas and seeing different type of multiples. Today, telco sits in one range. Hopefully down the road, it will be different type of multiples given the different growth that will be demonstrated by this investment.
And finally, where do you see the consumers spending more money, spending more dollars or dirhams? What kind of services do you think they would be? Because now, as you said, telcos cannot rely on just the traditional services to make money. They have to look at new revenue streams. Where do you see a big opportunity there?
So, I mean, don't get me wrong. Telco will always be a cash cow when it comes to a lot of these companies. And the delta growth beyond telcos will always come from services that create value or give value to the user. So entertainment, definitely, whether it's in the traditional pay TV type of a market or a streaming TV, will continue to add value to the users. And then in the payment, definitely, it's an area of a great growth. Definitely, when we talk about the super app, with the super app, it's an area also for so many things bundled together, from foods and groceries and payment type of services. people will create, will pay to get value. And toward more forward, few years beyond that, in the health tech type of a space, we believe consumer will pay more money toward their wellness and to their health.
Well, that's a very interesting thought to end this discussion on as we have come to an end. But it's very interesting. Who would have thought 5-7 years ago that telcos would be focusing on payment, entertainment, and a host of other services within fintech to drive their next stage of growth. But thank you so much, Khalifa, for sharing your thoughts. That's really interesting, and we look forward how this space evolves in the coming years. So that was the last session for today. I hope you enjoyed these insights from Khalifa. Thank you so much for joining us, and wish you all a very good evening. Thank you.